We're recording this for our friends at Rosa Scott and Ridgeland. I know you got a crazy schedule, so we appreciate you joining us. We've been talking about the television and the AV industry and all the different jobs available in television. Before we get started, we need to thank you for joining us for our homecoming parade we had. We were honored to have you. It was a great time. We did not get to have our parade last year, so it was you were a great fit to have as our Grand Marshal this year. And we hope you had a great time when you were here.
I did. I had a whole lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, you guys are great.
Oh, that's awesome, and we were honored to have you. But like I said, we got a room full here, so why don't you? I'm sure a lot of them recognize you, but some of them may not. So why don't you tell us what all you do and how you got into it?
Awesome. So my name is Melissa Faith Payne, and I work at WLBT and Fox 40 News. Last time we did this, I was able to give you guys a tour of the studio, but today you were in my kids' playroom because it's closest to the Wi-Fi. But I work at WLBT News, and I anchor the 4:30, the 5:30, the 9 o'clock, and the 9:30 newscasts. My workday starts at 2 p.m. I come in at 2 o'clock. We have a meeting every day. Every day our meeting starts at 2, and we talk about, everyone has to come in with a story idea. So we're talking about things that are happening in the community, in the world, but mostly in our community. And when I say the community, I mean Jackson, Clinton, Madison, Ridgeland, Canton, our surrounding area. And everybody should come in with an idea of something maybe that you heard, something that you saw, something that you experienced. Maybe you read something in the newspaper and you want to expound on it and do a story on it. And so after everyone gives all their story ideas, then we decide which ones are the best ones to cover for that day. Now, I typically don't leave out of the building very much. I am inside most of the day. So once that meeting is over at about 2:30, then I start reading through my scripts. I help write the show, edit any video that that needs editing. That's kind of what I do. At 4 o'clock, I run into our makeup room. I put on makeup, get dressed, and then I'm on set for 4:30 to do the news. Then at 5, I'm off the set, reading my scripts for our newscast at 5:30. Then at 6 o'clock, I take a dinner break. And then it's back to the station if there's any breaking news to go over that, or to just get the show prepared for the evening. At 10 o'clock, oftentimes I do a segment in WLBT News as well. I don't necessarily anchor it, but I'll just be doing a news segment. And then I'm home by about 10:30. So it's a pretty long day. So I spend my mornings doing laundry and cooking and doing all my normal household duties. But I'm from Vicksburg, Mississippi, so I'm local, fairly local. I graduated from Alcorn State University with a degree in mass communications. I also graduated from Mississippi College, where I have a master's in mass communications as well. So that's basically my educational background. And as far as working, when I was in college, I did an internship at WLBT. And then when I graduated, I ended up moving to Salt Lake City, Utah. I had a cousin who lived there. So I moved there to just see what that was all about. And I got a job at a TV station within 5 days. Wow. And it was pretty awesome. And I got a job as a producer. It was an overnight producing job, which meant I had to go in at midnight every night. And I stayed until noon, thereabout, or 9 a.m. or whatever. But that was my first job in TV. And so I worked in Salt Lake City for 2 years. Then I moved to Meridian, where I got a job as a reporter and an anchor. Then I moved to Jackson, where I worked at WJTV, Channel 12, for about 9 years. Then I took about a year off from the news and then came back. And now I'm at WLBT Fox 40. So that is me in a nutshell.
Yeah, and that's a heck of a path, and that's just a little bit of a cult. And I've been to Utah, just a little bit different than being in the South. Now you talked about some, you said that you talked about your schedule and what all you do. So for the ones we have watching, we have our multimedia academy here on campus as well. It is not just being in front of the camera. there are there's writing, and obviously you do video editing. So even though the being on the camera is what everybody sees, and it is extremely difficult, and it takes a talented person to do that, you have to have the multimedia skills and the writing skills just to be able to get in front of the camera.
Absolutely.
So what all goes into that?
My best subjects in school were always English and reading. Always. I'm terrible at math. I'm horrible at science. Those were not, STEM was not me.
You got a great reaction on that one.
So I was always a good writer. My mom was an English teacher, so it just came natural. But I'll tell you, in addition to the writing skills and reading, we actually have people their sole job is to work our social media. So that means they spend their whole day on Facebook, Instagram, working on our website, updating stories. So the news, I mean, it's just multifaceted. So if you like social media, I mean, there's a huge platform. We have a whole digital platform that's online, and that's all people do. We actually even have a reporter who spends a lot of her time doing stories just for the web. And I'll show you, this is what we shoot a lot of our stories on. And this is just my iPhone. Yeah. So a lot of I've actually done a story where we had to go into a place that would not allow our cameras, but they couldn't keep us out. So I went in with my cell phone and I'm just shooting video because they can't stop you from shooting video. So technology is so advanced now. And this video from my camera ended up on the news. We have people who are managers who make all the decisions. We have producers who do a lot of the writing. We have people who are editors. We have a person whose only job is to sit in the newsroom and listen to the scanners. So they're listening to the police scanners to hear what's going on. And then they have to be multi-talented, they have to be a good multitasker because they're sending crews here, they're listening to the scanner, they're answering phones, they're directing people over here. So what you see, my face, that's just like a drop of what it goes into making the newscast. There's so many hands in the newscast. So there's so many different avenues for people who maybe you don't know what you want to do and you want to be in an active newsroom. There are lots and lots of jobs for people.
Yeah, because I know you have sound people, lighting. There's people operating the cameras. You have to have people on the switchboard, on the control desk, and you showed us around that before. It's quite an impressive operation, and we're a smaller TV market, so just imagine what it would be like. Now, for the kids we have that maybe want to live in a bigger city, how portable is the television industry?
Experience is going to get you everywhere. Education is phenomenal, and you need that to get your foot in the door. Starting out in a smaller TV station, they need people who have experience. And honestly, nowadays you can get into a larger market at a young age because they're hiring younger people, because younger people are more inclined to use technology. Technology is the way of this business. So when you have people like me who may be a little bit older and, I don't really necessarily know how to do everything with, TikTok and whatnot, the younger generation does. So don't just think Jackson, Mississippi, and Jackson, Mississippi is amazing. But I mean, yeah, there are Atlantas out there. There's New Orleans out there. There's New York City, Hawaii. There are other countries that you can branch off to. A friend of mine, he was here. His goal was to become a correspondent, just a foreign correspondent, because he could speak another language. Oh, wow. So he could go to France, and he did that for a little while. But he got his training here in Mississippi. So the door is wide open. But again, learn technology. And that's what you guys do every day. We're learning it as older people, but you guys who are young, it's just part of your everyday, way of life.
That's funny you said that, because Howard told me the same thing, that he struggled on the technology side. As great as he is, he said, I'm never going to be good at that. Now, how long, because and we have a question about this, but this is something I was interested in too. When that light goes on and you got the red light on the camera, how long do you have to get ready to prepare to go live on TV?
When that red light goes on, you're on, period. So I don't even have my earpiece with me, but I wear an earpiece in my ear So they're counting me down. So they typically start at 30 seconds. I get a 30, 15, and then they'll count me down from 10 all the way to 1. But when the light goes on, you are on. And if you've watched the news, I've been caught like this because my earpiece may not work. And so I've been caught like this, looking off in space. I'm texting and they'll go, "You're hot, you're hot." Oh, and you have to be on. So that happens a lot. But yeah, when the red light goes on, we are on. So you have to be mentally prepared. And the first few times you do it, it's a little nerve-wracking, but then now, even if I'm doing something, like if I'm looking crazy and they'll say you're hot, I'll just turn around and just go right into it.
Now, and I know you don't do a whole lot of field work anymore, but we did watch you have some clips on YouTube of you doing some field work. You had the water pipe break and things like that. So if you're out in the field, how do you get yourself ready to go live on a camera then?
So I have a bag that I keep in my car, and it's got, basic makeup, not a whole lot, but just enough so I don't look like a monster. I keep a WLBT shirt in the car and jeans. But yeah, when you're out in the field, it's so much harder because you're doing so many things. Like when I'm in the studio, my stuff is right over there. But when you're out in the field, especially if it's a breaking news situation, I mean, you have to keep in mind weather. It can be hot, and so you're sweating. You're trying to run around and gather information. It could be freezing cold, and you're running around trying to gather information and trying not to, freeze to death. And you're doing 10,000 things at once. But I try to be prepared. That's one thing that I do, and especially during hurricane season. I keep rain boots, I keep a coat, I keep a blanket, and I keep a snack bag in my car, because we have had it happen where, you get a call that says, "We need you to come in right now." And I got to go to the station. Who has time to stop at Walmart or who has time to do laundry or whatever real quick to be prepared? So I always keep a bag with those things in my car. And it came in handy because the last storm we had, I think I went in at midnight and we rode around storm chasing, and I have my blanket, and it's a team of us. It's myself and a photographer. So I've got my blanket. I'm on Facebook trying to find where people are posting damage, but I got my snacks and I got my boots and I got my baseball hat, and we're living the dream.
All right, well, I do have some great questions I want to get to, and these are all ninth graders, so this is great that they're actually thinking this stuff. But this first one is from Keisha Daltrey, and she asks, "How do you keep from showing your emotions on camera if it's a heartbreaking story?"
Ugh, sometimes you can't. So I'm a mom and I have 4 boys, and anytime there is a story and it involves children who are hurt, it is hard. And I feel like it's okay to share the emotion because it humanizes you. There's no way you can do those kind of sad stories and not be affected. But if it's a controversial topic, I just try my hardest to not, keep a straight face, read the news, and keep going. But I like funny stories because I'm a laugher. I laugh all the time. And if you're looking, I'm a talker with my hands. I do this all the time. So you'll see me reading and you'll see me doing this because I just do it naturally. But I think showing emotion is a good thing because who wants to just sit there and just look at an expressionless mask of a person? You want to know that person is impacted just like you. And 9 times out of 10, I typically am. So if I feel it, I'm nodding my head sometimes or doing this or I'm laughing. But I try to stay away from the controversial stuff because people will call you out on it. They will call you and say, I saw her laughing when she was reading this story. Ma'am, I was not, but so I try to hold it together in some instances.
And you said that sometimes on some of the funnier stuff, they mess with you and they kind of shock you on the stuff you're reading just so they get a reaction, because you're right. It does humanize you and the viewers enjoy seeing that.
Absolutely. They put scripts in. I typically read through my scripts. I try to, but towards the end of the newscast, I may not make it there. So sometimes I am reading it for the first time on air. And I sometimes you'll just see me with my hand and I'm laughing at the story like, what? And you can hear it when I'm reading it. So my producers love to do that, because I'm one to do that. And I have burst out laughing on air. I had burst out laughing on air and could not control it. They had to go to commercial and I was crying. Yeah. So anyway. Yeah.
And even though you have all the preparation and all the writing and the stuff, but at the end of the day, it's a television show. So
Absolutely.
even though it is local, the viewers are still what pays the bills, and you have to have that element for the viewers to want to watch.
Right. Because
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah. This is from Anaya Truss, and she
Okay.
asked, "Have you ever felt like you were in danger while you were reporting?"
Yes, I've been out on a scene where shots were fired, not at us, but shots were fired on the scene. The worst, and it's understandable, but we've been on a scene where someone was just killed and the family is just finding out and the news is there and you understand because your loved one has just been killed and here people with the camera shooting and putting your most painful moments on display. And they understandably can be very upset. And we've been approached several times. My photographer has had people try to knock his camera down. We've had people, especially if we're late at night, we have been places where it's just a photographer, myself, and you see somebody driving by really slowly several times, and I'm like, are they about to drive by and shoot us? What's going on? So yes, there have been several instances like that. So we try to work in teams of two. And our company is very good about if we don't feel safe, then we don't, we call them, we let them know this is not a safe environment and they pull us out. Same, again, when we're on the scene and there's been some sort of devastating incident, and the people and the crowd is upset, you have to back off because, I love what I do, but it is not worth dying over. I'm not trying to die to get a good story. So.
And along the same lines, this is Madison Collins, and she asked, "How do you ensure your work is accurate and factual?"
I check, and double check. And I do a lot of attributing, which means I don't say it, you say it. So if I'm doing a story, I try to get experts, police say, so Melissa didn't say, police say it. So if it's wrong, the police were wrong. If I'm doing an interview about wastewater treatment and I'm talking to the Department of Environmental Quality, John Smith from the Department of Environmental Quality says this. I didn't say it, he says it. But I also do a lot of research. I try to look up, especially if it's something that I don't know about. And those are the best stories because I'm learning myself. I like to read a lot of court documents. And when we get court documents in, they typically will give them to me to read. But even as I'm reading through, I have an attorney friend who I can call and I can say, this document says this, this, and this. What does this mean? So I rely a little bit on my research, but a lot on people who know a lot more than I do to just make sure that what I'm saying is correct.
Yeah, and I know one of the big stories you've been covering lately is the Metro Center Mall story. But all that stuff that you've gotten, if somebody really wanted that source you've gotten, they have access to it as well.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
obviously, it's your job to go get it, but everything that you've shown has been court documents, which are public record.
Public records are amazing, and then again, Melissa didn't say it, but the Hinds County Chancery Court said this right here, so yeah.
Yeah, because because I know you had updated that story lately, and you said very clearly, according to Hinds County court documents. You didn't say according to Melissa Faith Payne documents. So
right.
Little things like that are important when it comes to reporting the news. This is Selena Johnson, and she asked, "How do you read the teleprompter at a good pace and not mess up when you're on live television?"
So that's the prep part beforehand. So I'm helping to write the scripts. So I'm familiar with the copy. So I'm reading basically what I wrote. So that's very, very helpful. I try not to read my scripts cold. So you mess up when you're reading it for the first time. That will mess you up. And then you have to remember, we are all human, but everybody's grammar skills aren't the same. So we have producers, but our producers, the sentence may not be grammatically correct. And as I'm reading it in my brain, I'm thinking this is not right. So I may be trying to fix it in my head before it comes out of my mouth. That's stressful. So that's why I try to go in and read my scripts beforehand if I can, and correct them. And then I write the way I speak. So whatever I'm reading is typically how I would have said it in regular conversation anyway. So if I am stumbling over a word, it's all right because it's in regular conversation for me. So that makes it a lot easier to clean it up as I'm finishing out the sentence.
And again, that also it also adds a personal touch because every anchor you guys have is different,
Right.
and I think that really helps give a variety to the news reporting, and that would be honestly any type of television. You know, even though you guys aren't actors, you know, you want to have that human aspect. This
Right.
is Kwame Johnson, and he asked, "What is one of the hardest things you've had to go through while being Black and on the news?"
Oh, that's a good one. Um, wow, that's a good one. I would have to say, going through the whole George Floyd, Black Lives Matter movement. I think it was difficult for all the African Americans in our newsroom. We're Mississippi, so there are a lot of things that you have to deal with anyway. B, people have so much access to you because you have social media. And C, we're working in a newsroom where not everyone is Black. So my opinion on how we should cover this story and Howard's opinion on how we should cover this story may be different from how another employee who's white thinks we should cover the story. So there are often times, or in situations like that, for sure, there are debates in the newsroom on how to do this, or why we should do this, or why we should be sensitive in this way, or why we should branch out and cover this story from this angle because this angle hasn't been told. It was very eye-opening in our newsroom. But I will say it was eye-opening in a good way, not just for us, the African-American employees, but for everyone in our newsroom. And it made it a lot more inclusive. But at the time, I don't think anyone realized how huge it was going to become. So at first, it wasn't necessarily that big of a deal. And then the story just grew bigger and bigger and bigger. So yeah, that was very difficult. Plus, as a mom, that was really tough to have to explain that whole situation to my children. And I have 4 boys. So that was really difficult.
Yeah, and that also is a perfect example of knowing your market, because in place
Yes.
because you guys have a pretty good sized viewing area, and and the demographics are different all throughout it. So it's important to know who all is watching and who all is getting the news, that everybody gets a fair, unbiased opinion, and you guys have always done a great job of that, especially Howard and Maggie. It's just unbelievable how good those two are. Um, this is Makala Williams, and she asked, "What inspired you to get into television?"
Um, that's a funny question. So my family are all educators. My mom's a teacher. All of my aunts are teachers. So I knew I did not want to be an educator. And I wanted to do something different. I didn't want to have like a typical career, whatever that means. But I will tell you, when I went to college, I was going as a magazine writer. That was what I was going to do. I always wanted to do television news, but I really just didn't think that was a reality. I really didn't think that was a job that I could actually get. Even with the internship at WLBT, I was like, this was so much great. This was so great. This was awesome. But I'm going to go write for a magazine. I'm going to write articles and whatnot. And then some kind of way, the universe aligned and I was able to get into it. But really, honestly, my path was originally to become a writer, or to write articles for some random magazine. I don't even know which one. So
This is Travarius Carson, and he asks, "Is it hard to get you? Is it hard to get used to your schedule when you're in television?"
um, this schedule is not bad. It's difficult because I have kids, and I have to try to come home on lunch break so I can catch soccer games and do homework and this, that, and the other. The hardest schedule, or the harder schedule, is for people who work the morning show. So the morning news comes on at 4:30. Those guys have to be at work. I think they're lenient now. I think they have to be in the station by 3:30. But I mean, That means you got to have your hair, makeup, read your scripts, and do all of that. So typically you have to get up at 2 a.m. And that's a hard schedule.
I don't
So
know how
I'm
to do
thankful
it.
for mine because I've worked it, but you're up at 2 a.m. Yeah, they're about 2:30, 3 if you're pushing it, but you're on TV at 4:30. So you're on TV, dressed, makeup, functional, coherent, and then your day ends at noon. Well, noon. And when your day ends at noon, that sounds awesome, but then your body is tired. And those guys typically go to bed like at 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening so they can be up for 2 a.m. That's the worst schedule. So mine, I'm thankful for. It does, it is a pain when I'm still at work at 9 o'clock and everybody's at home watching TV. But I'll take that over that 2 a.m. schedule.
Oh, I'm with you on that. This is Victoria Taylor, and she asked, "How do you go about managing stress when you have a tight deadline?"
Ooh, I'm one of those people. I'm a procrastinator and I work very well under stress. Um, I wait until the last minute. I have been, the story is like, I'm writing the story and it is like about to be read on air in 1 minute, in 60 seconds, and I'm hitting send. I work well under pressure. I don't know what it is, but I do. And I get more organized under pressure. So maybe that's a good thing that I'm in this field. So yeah, I don't really know how to answer that because I do well under pressure. I don't know how. I do well in breaking news because I can hear if I'm listening to police give off facts, I hear them and I can give it right back. 2 weeks from now, I can't tell you what I said, but I can give it right back to you in the next minute or so with brief notes. So that is one, I guess, random talent that I have.
Hey, it's all about the random talents. This is Jakaya Fields, and she asked, "Would you need a college degree to work in television?"
Yes. Yes. It used to be you didn't, but now I think most places are requiring a college degree, and not necessarily in mass communications. If you have a degree in English, if you have different degrees, but yeah, they do for the most part require a 4-year degree to get into TV. Yes.
Well, and I know, and you mentioned the Alcorn Masscom. I know and MC Jackson State and Southern Miss both have Masscom programs that have both turned out some great news people on and off the camera.
Mm-hmm.
So you had the
Yep.
PWI and the HBCU route for anybody watching later as well. That's 4 great programs in Mississippi that offer that. And I know you're really busy. I just got 2 more questions. One funny and one serious.
Okay.
The first one, obviously, you've had some great on-camera moments with Ken South and Mike Sands over the years. But how that on-camera relationship, how important is that on a news channel? Because some of those exchanges have been so hilarious.
I think it is everything. When you connect with somebody on camera and off, but when you connect on, people enjoy watching. And it's those moments that are not scripted, because we have like moments where they'll allow us to ad lib. For instance, we had a story where we were talking about Amazon, and Amazon was selling like pebbles. Like pebbles they were selling on Amazon. So this is live on air, and it's me and it's Mike Sands and it's Dave. And I said, oh my gosh, if I knew I could get rich by selling rocks, I'd have been selling rocks. Well, as it came out of my mouth, I went, oh my God, what did I just say? And they are dying laughing. And Dave was like, that'll land you in jail. And they're going back and forth, and the banner is just so natural. And I'm not even saying that, I'm just dying laughing. But to have somebody, where you can do that, because I have worked with people where I have maybe I've said, I had a convertible at one point. I think I said, oh, this is a great day to just take your top off and I meant the car, of course, but but the person I was working with didn't even get it. He was just like, yep. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Wow.
Anyway, so yes, that on-air chemistry is amazing. And I think, like you said, people enjoy watching, and it makes it so much more fun when you're at work and so much more comfortable that if you're stumbling, somebody's going to catch you and write you. So.
That's awesome. All right. So the last question I have is that everybody in this room is a young Black student in Mississippi, and you've grown up in Mississippi. We're about the same age. You've grown up and become extremely successful, and you deserve everything you've gotten. But even if they don't want to work in television, what can they do as a young Black person in Mississippi to be as successful as you've become?
I'll tell you this: no matter, pick a dream. Pick a dream. Not just me. I see so many people who have dreams and they see them through no matter what. I'm talking about, I have a friend who recently just decided, you know what? I want to drive trucks, and was able to get an 18-wheeler with the help of someone else, and now drives. And after 6 months of driving, has been able to buy more trucks and employ more people. If you can dream it, you can do it. It is not, you're not held back because you are African American and live in Mississippi. The world is literally your oyster. You just have to think it and want it enough and dream it enough. I literally have gotten to the point now, things that I want, I write them down. And I'm not being all churchy, but it says in the Bible, write it down and make it plain. And I totally believe in that. Write down whatever it is that you dream, come up with some plan of action, and pray on it and work on it. And also, I'll say this, and I won't preach, but if you have a dream and you know somebody who is working in that dream or walking in that path, reach out to that person and connect with them and find out what steps they took. I have, in addition to that, I also do real estate randomly. And I have a friend who I'm watching this lady sell like multi-million-dollar houses. And I'm like, what is she doing? How does she do that? So you reach out, because how else can you learn if you don't surround yourself with people who are doing the things that you are doing or that you want to do? Same thing with internships. How I got to WLBT randomly through an internship, but I watched Maggie and Howard. I mean, they were there when I interned, and that was okay. This is maybe what I want to do. So I'm sitting there with Maggie. I'm like, how did you do this? Where did you start? Blah blah blah. And you make connections. So whatever your dream is, if you want to be a football player, if you want to be a wrestler, if you want to drive trucks, if you want to start an art school, be an artist, be a news person, find somebody in your field of whatever it is that you want to do, reach out and make your dreams come true. Because I sincerely believe that there are no limits. Your world is limitless.
Absolutely. And that's great stuff. And we thank you so much for joining us today. Great advice. Great, you got a great story. You're so inspirational. And a lot of kids are going to see this. And thanks again for making time for us, and have some, enjoy the rest of your morning, and have some great newscasts tonight.
All righty. Thank you. You guys have a great day
All right.
today.
I'll see you soon, my friend.
All righty.